Hello, hello. Okay, so this is a kind of a long and somewhat painful story, but I'll try to make it short. So, imagine a university, and imagine that that university has a research lab. In this case, a rodent research lab. And one day, they hire a new lab manager. And that lab manager comes to this new rodent lab, and she manages the lab, and everything is fine. And that lab manager, from time to time, buys people in the lab gifts. Maybe the equipment supplier has mugs, so she buys people some mugs or pens, all kinds of things. And people get all kinds of gifts. And this goes on for a while. And one day the lab manager realizes that the suppliers also have yarn. So she orders some yarn. And she starts creating something, some arts and crafts, some sweater or socks or something from yarn. And this continues for a while, and she gets more yarn and does more arts and craft and so on. And this goes on for 10 years. For 10 years there are gifts, and for 10 years there is yarn, and for 10 years there are all kinds of arts and craft activities. And 10 years later, somebody new comes to the lab. And that person looks at it, and it doesn't look right. It doesn't look that his gifts are right. It doesn't look that the yarn is correct. Now, in a regular world, what would you want that person to do? You might want that person to confront their lab manager. Maybe you want that person to go to the person above them, the head of the research group. Maybe they should go to the university. There's all kinds of ways to go. In our particular story, that person ended up going to the federal government. That person went to the federal government, NIH in our case. NIH did an investigation. It turns out that the lab manager not only spent some government money, NIH money, on gifts and on yarn, she also did not pay as much attention to the research going on in that time. And there's a big fine. Let's call it $150 million. That person, by the way, who was the whistleblower, got 20%, because those are the whistleblower rules. Now, when that happened, which was a few years ago, I went to talk with the leadership at the university. And I said, I know how you're feeling. You're feeling betrayed. And because you're feeling betrayed, what you want to do is you want to close all the loopholes. You want to create conditions that will make it impossible for other people in the future to behave like this. It's very painful. It's painful from the NIH. It's painful from public humiliation. It's painful because of the big fine. All of this is terrible. Terrible within the university, outside. And you want to basically stick the control so that nobody can act like this. But two things. One, you can't close all the holes. It will never happen. If somebody wants to misbehave, you can't stop it. There's a lot of things that you can't do. But the second thing, there's a good chance that your actions will actually make things worse. As I think about not the superficial characteristic of this person got yarn and pens and so on, and this person whistleblowed, think about the reality of what happened is that both of these people did not care about the institution. Both of those people cared about themselves. They cared about themselves at the expense of the institution. Right? And I said that whatever you do from now on, it should be about getting people to care more about the institution. And the risk is that if you'll create more rules and more regulation, you'll get people to care less about the institution. Anyway, I have to say that I've failed. My plea to basically understand the mistakes happened, my plea to get them to understand that the real issue is that there are people who just don't care about the institution, and we need to increase the care rather than increase the regulation did not work out. And as a consequence, there's many more regulations, there are many more rules, and I haven't been able to do a systematic survey. Like, I wish I could go back 10 years and look at attitude of people toward the university over the last 15 years. But I'm willing to bet that caring for the university, that the feeling that we're here together has diminished. I'm willing to bet that the number of people who feel Duke Blue running in their vein is lower. That the things that were designed to stop the very, very few, very, very occasional bad actors have made everybody like the university much less. And that's the cost that we often don't take into account, but we have to. We have to. Because by not taking into account, we're just creating lots of bureaucracy and lots of rules that eventually are getting everybody to suffer.